right, Pat, today we're going to talk about incident reports. This is often the most important document at the beginning of a case. The accident report is the law enforcement's summary of the accident. And in any case in which law enforcement arrives at the scene, which should be any accident of any significance, there should be law enforcement report. So assuming that law enforcement arrived at the scene to check everybody out, there's going to be a report that's on file that has a lot of the pertinent information that you need to know at the outset of the case. So today we're going to look at an incident report and tell people what to look for and what the important information is, because they can be a little difficult to interpret. Patrick, why don't you remind people how they can get a hold of their reports? What are their different options when they're looking for the report?
Yeah, usually the easiest way is to go to buycrash.com. That's a Nexus site, and you go in and you're going to need a little bit of information. You're going to need the name of one of the drivers, and you're going to need driver's license number, birthday, and some basic information so that they can pull the report, date of the accident, and then you can order it that way. I think the cost is usually somewhere between $10 and $15.
Sure. And basically the way you can find that, we have a video on it. You just Google buycrash.com and you should be able to find your report. Now, one thing I want people to remember is oftentimes at the accident scene, they're given a piece of paper from the law enforcement, which has the report number and maybe the insurance information for the other party. That is not the report. That basically is telling you how to get the report. You can put in that number to obtain it. And then there's a number of other ways that you can find it, which we've covered in another video. So I thought today, let's jump into this and tell people what to look for when you get your incident report. Okay, so here we have a basic Georgia incident report. This is out of Fulton County. And I've redacted a few details here so that you can't see the parties or the addresses of some of these people. There is sometimes some identifying information on here. These are public record, but I want to just show you real quick where to find certain things that are important. First is the date of the accident. It's going to be up here in the top left-hand corner of your screen. This particular date was March 22nd, 2019. Below that, you have the location. This was at the intersection of Austin Avenue Northeast and Euclid Avenue Northeast, and tells you the approximate time that it occurred. So that's when this happened. And then the important thing for us to know is who the at-fault party might be and what their insurance information is. So if you look here, vehicle 1 is listed as the at-fault driver in this case, and typically the at-fault is going to be the number 1 unit. I've just noticed that over the years. I don't know if that's a rule, but we have the person's name is up here. I've redacted this for this video. They'll have the address and sometimes even the phone number and the date of birth of the person. Again, I've redacted those. But the most important thing is you get the make of their vehicle, and what we always are trying to find is what the insurance information is. So here we have Geico, and we have a policy number that I've since redacted. That is the most important thing that we need out of an incident report, besides the description of how the accident occurred. Then you also have your own identifying information. And by the way, when you're looking at these reports and you find your name on it, make sure that all of the information is correct. Patrick, tell people what they can do if the information is incorrect on the report, because that is something we see quite a bit. And Patrick, can you tell people what they can do if they find incorrect information on their police report?
So if you look at your police report and it is incorrect, the easiest way to get that corrected is to contact the police department. Ask for the officer's name is usually down at the bottom of the police report. You call that officer, let them know that some of the information is incorrect. And they'll usually correct it if it's a factual correction that needs to be made. And the reason this happens is because officers are arriving at multiple crash sites during their shift, and they don't write the report until they get back at the end of their shift. And they may be writing 2 or 3 reports, and they can mix up different drivers.
Yeah, and let's show people real quick where you can find who wrote your report. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's usually a name of the report. This one was written by Officer Kelvin Jimenez of the Atlanta PD department. You would contact Atlanta PD, leave a message for that officer typically, and tell them that, hey, you need to correct something in the report. Okay, lastly, let's look at some other information besides the insurance information. That's how you know who to write to find out the insurance information for the at-fault driver. There's a citation listed on this first page. You can see if somebody is cited. In this case, someone was cited, so you can see that Unit 1 is being considered the at-fault driver. That's really important because for you to have a claim, somebody else has to be at fault. So this report is telling you that the officer found someone at fault, which is typically the way that it's going to be interpreted by the insurance companies as well. Sometimes there can be a dispute about that. And then there's usually this little narrative section where the officer basically describes how the accident happened, just a brief little summary of what may have happened. In this case, this is a rear end accident. As you can see, they've listed Unit 1 has apparently struck Unit 2 from behind. So Unit 1 is at fault. And that can be really helpful to let everyone see at a glance what's happened here, who's at fault, and who has the claim against the other driver. One last thing that I want to mention is that there's this information here that sometimes is written in a code. This tells you, like, if an alcohol test has been given, you always want to look for that to see if the other party is suspected of being drunk or on drugs. And you can see what the contributing factor was. In this case, it was considered that the operator was following too close. There's no other indications that the ground was wet or anything like that that could have contributed to the accident. And there's another document I want people to be aware of. This is the cheat sheet for interpreting these. Sometimes they're written with a 2 or a 1 instead of a yes or a no. You can find this online if you Google Georgia Incident Report Overlay or Accident Report Overlay. The DOT has this information available. And I'm going to show you now what this looks like. And this is basically the very complicated but useful interpretation of some of the codes that they use. You just basically match up the box that you're looking for, such as alcohol and drug test given up in the left-hand corner. A 1 is a yes, a 2 is a no, and a 3 is a refused. The test type is a 1 for blood, 2 for breath, 3 for urine, 4 for other. Sometimes you need this to make sense of the report when there's information in there about different types of tests given. So they also have several codes for things that are typical contributing factors to accidents, such as somebody parked improperly, somebody driving on the wrong side of the road. There's a number assigned to each one of these that you can find on this overlay sheet. So you don't always have to use this, but if you see a bunch of numbers on your incident report, you want to pull this off the internet and use it to interpret what the officer's saying.
There's another important piece of information to look for on an incident report. If you scroll down, Ben, there's a shaded area down here at the bottom, and that's to see if there's a commercial vehicle. And that if there is a commercial vehicle, there's some complexity to those cases. You probably want to get an attorney. Sometimes it's very difficult to locate the actual company because you have subsidiaries and various different entities that could own the commercial vehicle, and finding the insurance can also be a difficult thing. That's an important part of the police report as well.
Yeah, if you see a US DOT number down here, that means it's a commercial vehicle. That means there are numerous rules that apply to that vehicle that would not normally apply. There's an entire section of US code that applies to motor carriers and commercial vehicles, known as the Federal Motor Carrier Statutes, that put additional duties on each one of those drivers and the companies. So if you ever do see something like that, that you're probably dealing with a commercial vehicle, and you do want to probably get an attorney. Oftentimes, these reports are not available for 2 or 3 days after the accident. It's important to note that you don't want to wait around sometimes until the report is available. There's things that you need to be doing to preserve your accident scene, such as taking pictures, things of that nature. If you're seriously injured, you definitely want to talk to an attorney. The attorney is going to need the report to do a lot of the substantive information, but sometimes things, in very serious cases especially, things need to be done immediately to preserve the accident scene, because there is a delay before these are available. And if you're going to take pictures of skid marks or damage on the roadway, you've got to get those pictures at the time. On very serious cases, an accident reconstructionist or engineer may need to go out to the scene and document it. You want that done as soon as possible after the accident to preserve all of the evidence. Okay, so that's incident reports in Georgia. Again, you can find these usually at buycrash.com. Check the video on that to see how to get them.
We'll leave some links in the bottom of the YouTube comment section.
Sounds good.